The grave can't hold what God has called forth. If God has spoken your name, no grave has the authority to keep you buried. Not physical death, not spiritual death, not the grave of depression, addiction, failure, fear, or religion. When the Creator of the universe calls something to life, hell itself has to step back, because the grave can't hold what God has called forth. You think death is the end? You think the tomb is final? Then why does Scripture scream resurrection from Genesis to Revelation? Why does Jesus stand outside a sealed tomb and dare death to disobey him? Lazarus was 4 days dead. His body stank. His sisters had lost all hope. But hope isn't required when the resurrection and the life walks onto the scene. Jesus didn't whisper. He shouted, "Lazarus, come forth." And the grave, which had no ears, obeyed the voice of the one who made ears. That's power. That's authority. That's God. And if he called Lazarus out, he can call you out too. So tell me, skeptic, what do you do with a God who speaks into sealed places and things start moving? What religion compares to that? Islam honors a prophet still in the grave. Catholicism exalts saints with relics and rituals, dead traditions, cold ceremonies. But the empty tomb of Jesus Christ screams with the authority of heaven, "Death, where is your sting? Grave, where is your victory?" Pastor, why are your sermons filled with powerless encouragements instead of resurrection authority? Imam, why do your words circle lifeless laws while the living Christ calls men out of darkness into light? Priest, why do you hide behind incense and Latin while God is tearing open tombs with one word? You can't keep something buried when God says, "Rise, ask Joseph." His brothers buried him in a pit, but God called him forth to a palace. Ask Daniel. Lions circled his tomb, but God shut their mouths. Ask Jesus. Crucified, pierced, buried. But on the third day, the grave failed, because what God calls forth stays risen. You may be wrapped in regret, doubt, trauma, or addiction, but those grave clothes can't withstand the voice of God. You were not created to decay in your failures. You were called to rise in his victory. You think your situation is too far gone? You think God can't resurrect what's dead in your life? That's not humility. That's unbelief. When Jesus walked out of the tomb, he wasn't just proving a point. He was establishing a pattern. Resurrection is not a one-time miracle, it's a divine principle. What God calls must come. What God breathes into must rise. What God anoints, no grave can claim. To the doubters, explain how a crucified Jewish carpenter from a conquered nation split history in half. Explain why his followers went from hiding to heralding. Explain why tombs are still opening today, not with shovels but with faith. The problem isn't that God stopped calling. The problem is you stopped listening. You've grown comfortable in the grave, comfortable in religion, comfortable in pain. But when Jesus says, "Come forth," comfort is no longer an option. And you, yes, you reading this, what are you doing still buried? Still holding on to guilt? Still chained to your past? The stone's been rolled away. The voice has already spoken. The same power that raised Christ from the dead is now calling you. So rise, shake off the grave clothes, step into the light. Because the grave can't hold what God has called forth. Not now, not ever. Unless you believe death is stronger than God, you have no excuse left. And if you do believe death is stronger, prove the tomb isn't empty. Prove that Jesus stayed buried. Prove the silence of the grave is louder than the voice of God. Until then, stop calling the grave your home, because when God calls, you rise.